The government is quite literally giving your housing away to channel migrants, but the reason or the excuse is going to infuriate you. But also, should Lucy Connelly really be in prison and for so long for a single tweet? I've got some thoughts about that because a lot of people have been making comments about that online just recently, and there's another very good reason why this really needs to be discussed. More about that in the second half of the video. Please do stick around for that. And believe it or not, tomorrow is my 5-year anniversary on this channel of uploading almost every day, not quite every single day, but almost every day. And to celebrate, I am revamping my channel memberships to bring very much more to you. I'm going to spend much more time, believe it or not, on YouTube. So on my channel memberships, I have Trainee Black Belt, Black Belt, Master and Grandmaster. There's a join button below. There's lots of different perks, exclusive videos, free gifts, lots of things. It won't cost very much to join, but it will really help me to grow this channel, spend more time here, and to celebrate my 5-year anniversary on YouTube on this channel. So thank you so much for your support over this last 5 years. So let's go to this first bit, because this, I would say this is alarming, but it's actually becoming quite the norm for the headlines now to have such outrageous headlines. But here it is. Starmer to rent homes for channel migrants. Now, the first caveat is that this is not a new thing. This has been going on for decades, but it was only in such a small proportion beforehand compared to now. But now it is such a bigger deal because of the numbers involved. But the reason, or the excuse rather, that they are giving you is that it's cheaper. There's some details in the article here. I'll link this article below. And they say it's cheaper, but I'm more about that in a moment. But the reason that this is necessary, they say, apparently, because they refuse to do anything else about it, the reason they say it's necessary is because of the numbers. Now, the numbers of people coming across the channel is up 45% this year on the figures from last year. And whilst on the one hand, Keir Starmer and his government has vowed to end the use of hotels, they didn't say how. And no doubt they didn't say how because it would have created an outrage. But the how is by renting out your homes or homes of landlords, which there's another few things I'm yet to fully research, I caveat, but I'll tell you what those are in a minute, to migrants. Now, there's one or two real concerns here. Now, there's many of you will be familiar with the EPC rating, the Energy Performance Certificate rating. Now, from I think about 2018, all private landlords were required to have a minimum of E. That is now set, heads up, by the way, any of you that are private landlords, that is set to increase its requirement to a level C by 2030. Else you might face a £30,000 fine. Now, some people have commented somewhere online that because the local authorities, aka the Home Office via the local authorities, are renting these properties or just taking out contracts to lease these properties for 5 years or more. Another outrageous thing about that in just a moment. But apparently some people are saying, now I'm yet to fully verify this, but some people are saying that they will not require the same sort of standards. Now, it was my understanding that they do require the same sort of standards, but it may well be the case that moving forward, they can adopt their own rules because they're different regulations after all. The outrageous bit about all this is that I've read online some companies are setting up seminars to bring landlords in to say, we will pay for everything. We'll give you a 5-year lease. We'll pay for the refurbs. We'll pay for this. We'll pay for that. We'll guarantee the rents, etc. All you need to do is sign here. And it's all paid for through the Home Office and the local authorities to snap up local private landlords to take these houses for migrants. Now, looking at this article here, the Telegraph reports here that one of the 3 private contractors working for the Home Office is offering landlords this 5-year guarantee full rent deals to house asylum seekers, all at the taxpayer's expense, all at your expense. They say in promotional literature that they have already 30,000 or more asylum seekers in an ever-growing portfolio of more than 7,000 properties. That's just one provider. Further down, it says that there's something like 38,000 asylum seekers in hotels in official statistics from December, and they have something in the region of 16,000 dispersal accommodation properties run by the 3 contractors around the country. Those are places that they are sending them to from hotels. So when they tell you we're going to end the use of hotels, what they mean is they're going to put them into comfortable hotels around the country. Now, all of this, remember, a caveat that some people genuinely need our help, they genuinely need asylum, and they genuinely fleeing from war-torn or other dangerous places, and they do need our help. So that caveat aside, it is still the taxpayer that's picking up the bill for this. Now, the reason they say is that it's cheaper, because housing migrants in private accommodation is cheaper than hotels, they say, as little as £14 a night compared to £145. Bearing in mind that the cost of housing them in hotels at the moment is £5.5 million a day. And so it's no surprise that they are looking for other cheaper ways of housing these migrants whilst they're here, and the ever-increasing number of migrants coming across the channel, thousands upon thousands. In previous videos, I've talked about over 2,000 in just 1 week. Many thousands more are coming here, doubtless going through the same process, doubtless initially going to hotels, etc. And I've raised my concerns as to the lack of background checks and how can they possibly properly vet these as they come in. We were watching a program last night all about security, national security, the security services, tracking people, etc. And the thought was quite stark. I thought, how on earth can they possibly track so many people coming in when they have no idea who they are, no idea where they're from, and it's anyone's best guess whether they are a safe individual or not. And that really does raise the concern here. But all at the same time, they are charging the taxpayer, not just for the hotels, but now for what they call dispersal accommodation, which means that they are spread about through the UK, and it would seem not going anywhere fast. Now, depending on how far on this spectrum you go, because at one end, I'm sure some politicians take the view that we should just welcome everybody and everybody should be allowed to come here regardless of their background, regardless of their reason, etc. On the other end of the spectrum, we have MPs to say that if they are not here through the standard legal means, then they should be immediately deported. And I think a lot of people are probably closer to that end of the spectrum than they are welcoming everybody with open arms, taxpayer funds be damned. Let me know in the comments what you think. Politely and respectfully, please. This is an adult conversation. No one needs to be hateful and disrespectful here. This is a genuine legal and political commentary, all of which we are entitled to engage in. And this is something that affects everybody as taxpayers, and we really do need to know what's going on here. But when they say they're going to end the use of hotels, this is what they really mean. They are literally giving your houses away to channel migrants. But now what about Lucy Connelly? Should she really be in prison for one tweet? Now, obviously she pleaded guilty, but more thoughts on that in a moment, because there's another story that came to light in the last 24 hours or so that really brings this back to the forefront of everybody's mind. More about that in a moment, but first, something of a very fun sponsor for this weekend. Don't go away, take a listen to this. On another topic for a moment, most of you know I take my fitness really seriously, but in recent months, I've also been on quite a bit of a health kick. In fact, for at least a year and a half, closer to 2 years now, I've given up alcohol completely, and I've taken to drinking much more water than I did before. I drank water anyway, but now I drink far more water than I did before. And when I did that, I had a company get in touch with me called Holy, who now sponsors my channel. They produce energy drinks, hydration drinks, and iced teas. This is my favorite of all time, the strawberry and kiwi. I genuinely have some sitting with me most of the time. I make it up in this shaker here. It's really easy to do. You just take 1 spoon of the powder, you put it in some water that you take from the fridge, which is another sore story because this was supposed to be cold water from the fridge, and it turns out the fridge is going back because it doesn't produce cold water, but by the by, you put water in here, you put 1 spoon of powder in, you give it a good shake, and you get this fantastic drink here. It is, I cannot explain to you adequately how tasty and tangy this drink is. It makes you want to drink more and more water. That's the best way I can describe it. It is so tasty, so tangy, it just makes you want to drink more and more. If you're a milkshake kind of guy or gal, they do milkshakes as well. My favorite by far there was the hazelnut, but they do strawberry, banana, vanilla, but they're also doing special limited edition flavors for Easter as well. They are doing a lychee flavor. It's the birthday bunny because they're celebrating 4 years of producing these fantastic drinks. That is a lychee flavor. They're also doing the energy eel, which is a traditional energy drink flavored energy drink, but without all of the BS in it that you might find in some energy drinks, without naming any names. If you're a new customer, I'd recommend you go with the Starter Set Deluxe because they're doing a £10 off the Starter Set Deluxe, which will be on top of the discount that I'm about to give you. But also, if you are a strawberry fanatic, there is a Strawberry Shark collector box, which looks absolutely fantastic. So check that out as well. So, of course, as a partner to my channel, I get you a discount, which is on top of the discount for the starter set deluxe. So I'd recommend that for new customers. If you want a straightforward discount, use the code Barrister5 at the checkout for £5 on top of your £10 off the starter set deluxe. That is a total of £15 off that box. And if you want a straightforward percentage discount, just use the code Barrister for 10% off the drinks at the checkout. You won't regret it. They're a fantastic replacement for any other kind of drinks you have, be it fizzy, be it alcohol, whatever. It makes you drink more water, which is really healthy. They are really tangy. They are really delicious. I cannot stress enough how good these drinks are. So check some out, use the discount codes which are on screen and in the description below, and thank you to Holy for sponsoring this video, but they are genuinely fantastic drinks. In fact, I finished this one while I was filming this integration, so check them out, you'll really love them, and thanks to Holy. So back to Lucy Connelly now. There's two reasons that this really feels unjust to a lot of people. Now, with the caveat that she pleaded guilty to this offence and she was sentenced as though she was guilty of the offence because she pleaded guilty. Now, I remain of the view that she should have pleaded not guilty. She's entitled to a fair trial. She was entitled to take it to court, etc. But that's not what happened. She pleaded guilty and she was sentenced to 31 months imprisonment, which is 2.5 years. The second reason a lot of people feel that this is really unjust is that she's also been denied ROTL, which is release on temporary license. That means after a certain amount of time in custody, it means that they're allowed home or they are released temporarily for certain reasons and for certain periods. So in other words, they can go home, for example, once a month or twice a month or whatever the terms of the release on temporary license are. The temporary license bit is similar to the license period when you serve half your sentence and then the rest of it is on license but in the community. So temporary licenses, they are allowed out of prison to go home to visit family and so on. But, as I said, she's reportedly been repeatedly denied this, and Kemi Badenoch has made strong views about this as well. She's been denied temporary leave to spend time at home with her daughter and sick husband. Kemi Badenoch said that her sentence was disproportionately severe, created a dangerous perception of bias which could fuel radicalization and threaten community cohesion, etc. Now, just again to do the balancing act, if we come back to the sentencing remarks here of the judge and take a look at what her quote says. Now, this is obviously not intended to cause any alarm or discomfort here, but we need to look at it for proper legal commentary. The tweet called for mass deportation and setting fire to hotels. The judge said when she published those words that she was well aware of how volatile the situation was. As everyone was aware, that volatility led to serious disorder in a number of areas where mindless violence was used to cause injury and damage to wholly innocent members of the public and their properties. The post was widely read with over 300,000 views, 940 reposts, 58 quotes, and 113 bookmarks. So she was prosecuted and pleaded guilty to the offence of distributing material with the intention of stirring up racial hatred. And because she pleaded guilty, she was sentenced as though she was guilty of the offence, that was the intention behind the post. Now, you might look at this post and be devil's advocate and look at it and think, well, was she just expressing her frustration? Was she just giving her opinion? Or was she really intending to stir up racial hatred by this post? When she said, and for me, it was the following words here. When she says, "For all I care," that made clear to me that this was just her opinion. It might be a provocative opinion. It might be offensive. It might be one that a lot of people disagree with. It might cause offence, etc. But was it really with the intention of stirring up racial hatred? You may have a view about that, but we'll never know because it didn't go to trial. We didn't have a jury. The jury is the finder of fact in situations like this. The jury will answer as a question of fact. Did she intend to stir up racial hatred with that post? If the jury answered in the affirmative, obviously they would find her guilty of the offence, and she could have looked at a more serious sentence. But as I've explained in previous videos, the sentencing guidelines for this are quite severe, which is why she ended up with a sentence of 31 months imprisonment. Now, that doesn't explain why she's been denied ROTL, release on temporary license to visit family. The spokesperson for the prison declined to comment and just said to be eligible for temporary release, prisoners must be compliant with all prison rules. That suggests that she's not being compliant with all prison rules. Now, we don't know because they haven't said anything else. But when compared with many other offences, particularly those that are serious offences against the person, some of the most heinous nature that I can't even repeat here on YouTube, because YouTube's quite a friendly platform and doesn't like certain phrases being used, so I won't. You'll just have to use your imagination. But certain offences of the most horrific nature against another person, those sentences are not far different from the sentence imposed upon Lucy Connelly. And I think that's disproportionate. And in fact, as I understand it, I think there is an appeal outstanding against sentence in that it's unduly harsh. Again, let me know what you think about that in the comments below. But what's the reason that this has come back to the forefront of discussion again? Well, it's this article here from the Mail Online, the Daily Mail, because you may or may not be familiar with the rap group Kneecap. I wasn't, to be quite honest with you. But they've been reported here to be under investigation by counter-terrorism police for the following remarks. Take a listen to this.
You're Tories. The only good Tory is a dead Tory. Kill your local MP.
And so fairly harsh words there, I'm sure you'll agree. The only good Tory is a dead Tory, and kill your local MP. Well, of course, this has attracted a lot of commentary. Robert Jenrick has said the police should be investigating Kneecap immediately for potential terrorism offences and inciting violence. If a band were to glorify a prescribed far-right group, actions would have been taken. It's inexplicable discrepancies like this that create the perception of two-tier policing. And I agree, if they don't investigate this, it will create the perception of two-tier policing, in that they will investigate what they call far right and not calls to action to kill your local Tory MP. The Met Police has apparently since referred this footage to the counter-terrorism unit to assess whether the material breaks UK terrorism laws. And frankly, I agree. I think they should be looking at it. And I think that's probably all I can say about it, because they are probably under investigation. And so that's as much as I'll say about that. So I would say leave me your comments in the box below, but don't leave me comments about that, because this is probably an ongoing thing. You'll probably cause yourself some trouble, and be mindful of anything that might be contempt of court. That is, saying something with the intent of disrupting legal proceedings. And so there we are, quite some strange headlines, quite a bit of madness, and as I said at the outset of the video, I would think that this would be a strange set of headlines to bring to you, although it seems these days somewhat normal. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please do subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you for watching.